Here's a question about angular velocity, linear velocity. Says a wheel of 14 inches of radius rotates at 0.5 radians per second. What is the angular velocity in revolutions per minute? So the angular velocity is 0.5 radians per second. Now I've got I want revolutions per minute. So first I'm going to convert those seconds. There are 60 seconds per minute. And the reason I put the 60 seconds on top is so that the seconds cancel. Cancel from the denominator and the numerator. So now I've got radians per minute. But I don't want radians per minute. I want revolutions per minute. So I need revolutions up here. Well, how many radians per revolution? If you remember the unit circle, one time around is 2 pi. So it's one revolution in 2 pi radians. And the reason I put the radians on the bottom is so those units will cancel. And look at the units that are left. Revolutions divided by minutes. So this is going to be revolutions per minute. Now, just multiply. 0.5 times 60 is 30. 30 divided by 2 is 15. This is 15 over pi. Revolutions per minute equals approximately, if you do that division, you get approximately 4.77 revolutions per minute. Now it says the linear velocity in inches per second. Linear velocity can be denoted as V equals the angular velocity, but the angular velocity must be in radians times the radius. And why does that work? I'm not going to put the units when I do the calculation, but I'll explain why it works. 1 radian is an angle cut by the circle with an arc, by the portion of the circle with an arc equal to the radius. So in other words, radian equals radius divided by radius times the radius. The radius and radius cancel out. So it's just radius. This would be equals radius divided by time. And radius is in whatever units, inches, feet, meters. So that's how the units work. Just, you don't have to remember all that. All you have to remember is that to get the linear velocity, you must use the angular velocity in radians and then multiply that by the radius. So what is the angular velocity in radians? 0.5 radians per second. Again, remember radians is really radius divided by radius. 0.5 radians per second and times the radius, which is 14. 0.5 times 14 equals 7. And whatever units the radius was in. So this is inches per second. So really it's, the radians is inches divided by inches times inches. And what's left is inches on the top, inches per second. But again, you don't have to remember all the units when you're calculating linear velocity from angular velocity. Just remember this, that the linear velocity V equals the angular velocity in radians. I think I said radians per second, times the radius. And it will come out in whatever units the radius is in per second. So in this case, it's 7 inches per second is the answer to the second part.